Carrying grain has left the port of Odessa in Ukraine. Turkey says the ship is carrying around 26,000 tons of corn and is expected to arrive in Turkish waters for inspections on Tuesday. The shipment comes days after Russia, Ukraine and Turkey signed a deal which was brokered by the United Nations. Ukraine says Russia has been blocking grain shipments from the key port since it invaded the country in late February. That's a claim that Moscow denies. The blockade then sparked fears of a global hunger crisis as the cost of grain soared around the world. But last month, the two countries agreed a fragile deal, and the Sierra Leone flagged ship, the Razoni, will dock in Lebanon in the coming days. The Joint Coordination Centre in Istanbul, that's under the terms of this deal, says this is the only ship that's going to depart today. Further shipments are still being scheduled and will be finalised after thorough inspections, they say. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the departure of this ship and also praised Turkey for its role in implementing the agreement. The Kremlin has also called it a positive mood, and Ukrainian officials are also welcoming this development. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said it's a day for relief for the world, especially our friends in the Middle East, Asia and Africa. And he also said that Ukraine has always been a reliable partner and will remain one should Russia respect its part of the deal. Meanwhile, Infrastructure Minister Oleksandr Kubrakov shared a picture of the docked ship and said, "Thanks to the support of all our partner countries and the UN, we were able to fully implement the agreement signed in Istanbul." He went on to say it's important for us to be one of the guarantors of world food security. Now, our Brussels correspondent Rosie Burchard joins us live to discuss more on this story. Rosie, thanks very much for joining us. Just walk us through how we got to this point of the first ship actually departing Odessa under the terms of this deal.
Giles, it's been a very long and winding road, and every day the stakes were really mounting here. Tens of millions of tons of grain trapped inside Ukraine on the one hand, and on the other hand the United Nations warning that tens of millions of people globally were at risk of famine or food insecurity and malnutrition. Now, Ukraine is a major exporter of grain to the world. It's the #1 exporter of agricultural goods to North Africa, a major producer of corn, of sunflower oil and of wheat. But since the invasion of Ukraine, those exports, which had previously been transported through Ukraine's Black Sea ports, have been unable to continue. Now, Russia blames this unfolding global food crisis on Ukrainian mines at sea and on Western sanctions. But the message from Ukraine and from Western leaders, particularly here in Brussels, is a total denial of that. They say the blame lies squarely with Russia. Now, efforts were underway for the weeks and months prior to try and broker a deal through the United Nations with, as you mentioned, Turkey, Ukraine and Russia. Now, this was achieved on July 21st in Istanbul. A memorandum of understanding was signed, in fact, two separate memorandums of understanding with Russia and Ukraine to allow these exports to continue. But you mentioned it was a fragile deal, Giles, and that fragility was proved just one day later when Russia began attacking a Ukrainian port. And there was fears then that this deal would simply be dead on arrival. Now, this first departure today shows the deal is in fact alive and well, and it will certainly be a sigh of relief for a world where there are mounting fears of famine. That's certainly something which has, as you mentioned, been welcomed by the United Nations Secretary-General, NATO, the EU and others.
And Rosie, you're in Brussels. What's the reaction from European officials there to this first ship actually leaving the port of Odessa?
I just stepped out of a press conference, Giles, where I asked about this, and the European Commission said they think this is a welcome first step. They also thanked the United Nations once again for its role here, also Turkey for the role in brokering this deal. However, there was a reiteration of the European Union's view that this is entirely a crisis of Moscow's creation. They accused Russia of looting Ukrainian grains and trying to sell them on, of burning Ukrainian wheat fields, destroying silos, targeting them in the ongoing warfare. And when this deal was signed on the 21st of July, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres was careful to note, he said this is an unprecedented deal between two sides engaged in a bloody war, and he noted that that conflict, of course, continues on the ground. This ship will first go to Turkey, where it will be inspected. Moscow says that's really important, that there are inspections underway because there were fears from the Russian side about potential for secretly transporting arms, or arms smuggling, as Moscow would say. Then it will head to Lebanon, a country which is embroiled in a really dire financial crisis, which has only been made worse by this food crisis as it has been unfolding over the last few months. So certainly a sigh of relief for Lebanon and for other countries in the region as these grain shipments appear to continue. This is the first one. The European Union hopes it will be the first of many.
All right, Rosie, thank you very much for your reporting. That was Rosie Birchard live for us in Brussels.